Terrifying secrets of the sinister lights. 7 haunting encounters in the Forbidden Woods revealed. The whispers in Maplewood grow louder each night. Shadows creep along the streets, warping once friendly faces into masks of fear and suspicion. Something sinister lurks in the Forbidden Woods, where flickering lights dance and call out, trapping the souls of the unwary. Sarah, a single mother of 2, feels the growing darkness closing in, each child's laughter softening into silence as anxiety grips the heart of her community. Just last week, they searched for the Johnson's boy, lost near the woods. Now, desperate parents hang flyers adorned with his familiar grin, but hope slips away at the edges of despair. The woods stand silent, but the lights? They pulse. They beckon. Every night, as she tucks her kids into bed, Sarah fills their minds with stories of protective spirits, those unseen guardians who roamed the Forbidden Woods. But even those tales, once merely comforting, start to twist into something grotesque: trapped spirits or ancient curses. Mom, Danny, her youngest, shivers with excitement and fear. Can I go see the lights? Panic churns in her gut, her breath hitching. No, stay away from there. Tonight, drawn to the creeping glow, Sarah can't shake the feeling of being watched. As darkness settles, the tension in Maplewood thickens. Beneath the gentle rustle of trees, a sinister silence weighs heavy, thick as fog. She remembers the locals saying the lights reflect lost souls, and a chill races down her spine. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With her heart pounding, Sarah approaches the edge of their yard, the flickering lights calling out like a siren. Something deep inside her knows the woods harbor a darkness she cannot fathom, a place where reality blurs and its sinister secrets lie in wait. Glancing back at her sleeping children, a veil of protectiveness floods her senses. Then, the unbearable happens. She turns, and her breath catches in her throat. Danny is gone. A chilling dread wraps around her. Danny! She screams, her voice piercing the heavy air. The woods, once a refuge for her stories, now morph into a labyrinth of terror. The flickering lights twist into shapes, shadows contorting through the trees, taunting her. Mom! She hears him call from somewhere deep in the darkness, innocent yet haunting. Fear escalates. A gut-wrenching instinct to flee calls her, but she can't abandon him. The sinister lights pulse faster now, flickers promising an alluring, terrible embrace. Sweat seeps down her back, a cold tremor coursing through her as she steps into the wood's heart. Danny, I'm coming. Something moves between the trees. Was that a figure? Was it him, or a trick of the light? Sarah's pulse races, fear rooting her to the spot. Can she unravel the truth of the haunting glow before it's too late? The fabric of her world unravels, the whispers growing louder as she realizes some secrets should never be uncovered, and now they might consume her. The air around Sarah thickens as she stands at the edge of the shadows, her breath coming in quick, frantic bursts. The call of her son echoes, a reminder of the innocence trapped within these twisted woods. Her heart races, drumming loudly in her ears, nearly drowning out the whispering winds that carry unspeakable secrets. Danny! She cries out again, pushing deeper into the suffocating darkness. Each step feels like walking against an unseen force, as if the trees themselves are trying to pull her back. The lights flicker in odd sequences, revealing fleeting glimpses of the ancient bark, gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. Mom! Over here! His voice seems closer now, tantalizingly within reach, yet each syllable wraps around her like barbed wire, tugging her further into the depths. She stumbles, tripping over twisted roots that seem to slither beneath her feet. Panic surges. Every instinct screams for her to turn back, but thoughts of Danny suffocate that urge. She steels herself, tightening her grip on the fading hope that she will find him safe. Then, the flickering lights coalesce into shimmering shapes, wayward specters writhing in the dusk. Sarah squints, her heart thudding painfully against her ribcage. Was it her imagination, or did they shift, coiling and dancing to a rhythm only they could hear? A chill courts her spine. She breathes in the damp air, pungent with the scent of decay, and that S when she sees it a figure standing beneath one of the glowing orbs. It sways slightly, draped in shadow, a dark void against the glow. Her instincts scream danger, but her heart aches for recognition. "Danny?" she whispers, barely able to hear her own words. The figure turns, a flicker of light revealing a shape that is all too familiar her boy. But something is off, the way he stands, with his head tilted unnaturally to the side, and those eyes empty vessels that hold nothing but darkness. Mom, his voice wavers, tinged with an unsettling lilt. It's not the voice she knows. Panic grips her, raw and fierce, and she forces herself to take a step back. But the lights pulse in rhythm, seductive and hypnotic, drawing her closer even as the instinct to flee fights viciously within her. "Danny, don't move." Her voice trembles as she stares past him, where apparitions swirl around the glimmering lights, faces trapped in ghastly expressions, fear, sorrow, anger, all melded into one echo of despair. They flicker like parchment burned at the edges, stories forgotten and souls lost within this forsaken place. "Mom, help me." Danny's lips stretch into a grim smile, eerily wide, as he reaches out. The warmth of his small hand beckons her, and yet, the shadows behind him deepen, grasping, clawing at the thin air. Something pulls at Sarah's heart, a horrific realization swells within her. The lights were not simply calling out. They were luring souls, hungry for more, and she stood at the brink of becoming the next sacrifice. She takes a step back, turning away from the sinister glow. But all at once, the whispers crescendo, echoing. "Stay, stay," the words slither into her mind, invasive and persistent, as if the woods themselves conspire against her will. "I will not stay," she screams, a wild determination rising up, igniting a spark of defiance within. Just as she spins to run, the lights flicker violently, and darkness engulfs her, swallowing the remnants of hope as she charges forward. The shadows close in around her. What horrors lie ahead? Will she uncover the truth before it consumes her? Will she find Danny again, or is she too late? As the darkness tightens its grip, Sarah knows time is running out. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she barreled through the grasping shadows, driven by the primal fear of losing Danny forever. The darkness felt alive, a tangible weight pressing down on her, making each heartbeat feel like a drum signaling her impending doom. She could hear the whispers growing louder, a cacophony of pleading and wailing, intertwining with the seductive calls that beckoned her back. "Danny, where are you?" Her voice echoed, desperation threading through it like a knife slicing through the night. Each step felt heavier, as though the very ground beneath her was conspiring to hold her captive. The lights pulsed behind her, casting eerie figures that danced just out of the corner of her eye. She dared not look back, knowing that each glimpse would steel her resolve. But what if Danny was still there? Was he truly lost? She pressed on, a flicker of determination igniting within her. As she stumbled through a thin curtain of fog that crept like claws around her legs, the terrain began to shift. The underbrush flattened, replaced by a path that twisted like a serpent through the towering trees. Just a few feet ahead, something glimmered, a faint, sickly green glow that seeped through gaps in the foliage. It radiated an unsettling chill, and instinctively, her heart raced. Could it be a way out? Or another trap? No. Focus on Danny. She fought back the chill gripping her spine. She couldn't get distracted. Not now. As she hurried towards the light, the voices began again, more distinct. "Help us, help us," they cried in unison, taunting and tormenting her with a haunting melody of despair. Each phrase dripped with anguish, echoing tales of those who had wandered too deep, never to return. She pressed on, following the sickly light, her heart thumping louder than ever, pounding a frantic rhythm of terror. It pulled at her, inviting her closer, promising a chance at salvation. When Sarah burst through the last thicket, she was met with a sight that stole her breath away. Before her sprawled a clearing, lit by a pulsating glow that filled the air with an otherworldly haze. The ground was littered with remnants, discarded toys, shoes, and other tokens of lost innocence. Each item shimmered eerily, glimmering as if alive. In the center of it all stood Danny, still and pale, with that same dark smile stretching grotesquely over his tiny face. The shadows twisted around him like serpents, their whispered promises drowning out any coherent thought. "Mom," he extended his hand, fingers twitching in an unnatural dance. "You came. Why did you take so long?" A chill coursed through Sarah as she staggered back, heart dropping into a pit of dread. That voice held no warmth, no love, just echoes of hunger and malice. Her boy was still there, but something else had taken root. "Danny, come to me," she urged, desperation clawing at her throat. But the shadows began to swirl around Danny, wrapping tighter and tighter. They coiled around him with a predatory intent, hungrily absorbing whatever light lingered in his eyes. "Leave him alone." She lunged forward, fists clenched, but it felt like running into a wall. The darkness pushed her back, an impenetrable barrier fueled by the shadows of lost souls. Fear surged within her, turning her scream into a stifled gasp. Was this truly all that remained of her child? She had to break the grasp before it was too late, before he forgot her completely. Then, in that moment of desperation, a sharp voice cut through the haze, echoing like thunder. "Run now?" Who uttered those words? Was it a faint voice in her mind? Or did she finally go mad in the maddening woods? Before she could ponder any further, the clearing shimmered, and hesitantly, she turned to run. But as she darted away, she could feel eyes on her, hungry and fierce, waiting for the next moment of weakness. Could she escape this nightmare, or was it already too late for her and Danny? The shadows lashed out, receding momentarily, but she knew they would not let her flee for long. And below her breath, the next whisper rose, "You can't hide." Forever fear gripped her anew. With every step, hard choices loomed. Would she find Danny, or would she become another light, lost in the shadows? As she raced deeper into the forest, questions spiraled through her mind. What awaited her in the darkness? Would she find the strength to confront the horrors that lingered in those cursed woods? The weight of the past pressed on her, and every breath whispered a new truth. Danny, the name echoed as she pressed on, ready to discover what lay hidden at the heart of this haunting nightmare. Branches clawed at Sarah's arms as she dashed through the tightening darkness. Each rustle around her sent spikes of adrenaline coursing through her veins, amplifying the fear coursing through her. She could still hear Danny's voice in her head, sweet yet tainted. "Why did you take so long?" It twisted her stomach into a knot. Was he waiting for her? Or had he changed into something even darker? The shadows were shifting, pulsing, alive with menace. She could almost sense them breathing, seething with restless energy, anxious for her next misstep. She fought to keep her breath steady, to barricade panic away, as she stumbled deeper into the woods. Each step echoed with a deeper sense of foreboding. Warnings lurking just out of reach, the flash of light broke through the trees ahead, brighter than the sickening green that had beckoned her before. It was strange and pure, a beacon in the suffocating darkness. Hope flickered. Could this be the way out? Just as the thought blossomed, an icy feeling clutched her heart. Was she being lured in again? She pressed forward, caution battling desperation. Suddenly, the air changed. A stench filled her nostrils, decay, something rotting just beneath the surface of her vision. As she neared the light, the clearing expanded before her. But this wasn't the sanctuary she had hoped for. The ground was now littered with remnants of what looked like old, forgotten belongings, faded memories scattered like breadcrumbs left behind in a hurried escape. A child's bicycle lay twisted, paint peeling like skin. Dolls with empty eyes stared up at her, their faces smeared with dirt and some indescribable substance. "Mom," the voice shattered the silence like glass. It floated through the air, reverberating in her bones. Danny's voice, sweet and familiar, yet completely wrong. She turned, heart hammering. "Danny." The sound shuddered out of her. But the boy who emerged from the shadows was not the same. Eyes void of warmth held her gaze, the smile curving his lips more like a wicked grin than a joyful greeting. His tiny fingers twitched, drawing her into his embrace. But she sensed something dark pooling between them. "Help me," with each word. The connection felt more tenuous, as if there was a reality unraveling. He was pulling her in, yet she could feel the weight of the shadows grinding against her mind, betrayals lurking within whispers. "He is lost. Let him go." No, she cried out, her voice slicing through the air. Panic surged. For a moment, she didn't recognize the world around her. It was heavy and bleak, and she didn't know how long she had been running or if anyone could hear her cries. The pulsing darkness surged forward, circling Danny like hungry wolves, fangs glistening. Come play with us, Mommy. Stop. She shook her head, tethered between her child and the pull of the abyss. Anxiety churned violently in her gut. Then, from behind the shadows, a figure emerged, a woman with sunken eyes and a vacant expression, a reflection of what Sarah could become. You don't have much time. Her voice was a whisper, drawing Sarah's attention from Danny's lethal allure. You must decide. The space between her and Danny shattered. She was torn apart, and all Sarah could do was scream. Would she rescue her son from the clutches of the night, or would she lose herself forever to the suffocating darkness? In that critical moment, with despair swirling around her, she felt a rush of clarity. No, I won't let you take him. I refuse. As she started to move toward Danny, empowered by the flame of defiance, the sinister laughter from the shadows erupted. It echoed through the clearing, mocking her determination. Come to us. Sarah, you can't fight what you can't see. The icy grip around her heart tightened as the shadows reared up, ready to consume her whole. This was the juncture. She could either plunge into the darkness or make one final desperate stand. Heart racing, she took her first step forward, but a cold hand gripped her ankle, and the whispers intensified, clamoring for her to falter. What would she sacrifice for Danny? Would darkness engulf them both? Or could one faint spark ignite a very real battle against the sinister forces lurking just beyond sight? Come back, Mom. Danny's voice twisted with urgent need, threading through the dark haze, echoing in her mind. With every ounce of her being, Sarah hurled herself into the maw of uncertainty. How far down the rabbit hole would she go? What awaited her on the other side? As the shadows lunged, darkness swallowing her, everything faded, and all that remained was the question echoing in her mind. Would she find Danny, or had she already lost him forever? The world twisted and blurred. Sarah felt herself falling, weightless, as shadows surged around her. The laughter echoed, chilling and relentless, wrapping around her like barbed wire. You can't escape. It taunted. She gasped, fighting against the nothingness, searching for the familiar warmth of Danny's embrace. Suddenly, she landed hard on damp earth, struggling to regain her breath. Grit and leaves clung to her skin. The oppressive pressure of darkness bore down on her. She blinked against the dim light that now flickered just ahead, a pulse amid the thrum of silence. Was it a beacon or a snare? Panic surged again, relentless in its grip. Danny, she called, the name slipping from her lips like a prayer. The haunting melody of the shadows swallowed her voice, drowning her desperation. Mommy came the soft response, distant yet near, weaving through the oppressive fog. Sarah's heart surged. The silhouette that appeared was still twisted in shadow, but unmistakably familiar. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong, but she pushed forward, her will clawing back the darkness. Danny, she shouted again, her voice cracking under pressure as she sprinted toward the dim figure. As she drew near, clarity faded, and she saw little of her son in the boy before her now. The darkness shimmered around him, like a living cloak draping over shoulders too thin. Mom, I'm scared. His voice trembled, but so did the image before her, flickering like a faulty light bulb. Each pitiful plea coiled in her stomach, threatening to suffocate her with guilt. The laughter returned eerie, contemptuous. Remember how long it took you to find him? Why should you be the one to save him? The shadows pulsed. Each heartbeat echoed, mocking her doubt. Leave him alone, Sarah shouted, desperation lending strength to her voice. But the shadows tightened their grip, wrapping around her legs like vines. You can't fight us. We know you, Sarah. Your faults, your regrets. They will hold you hostage. In that moment of despair, her tremors turned to fierce resolve. I will find him. Clenching her fists, she planted her feet firm against the encroaching darkness. She would not betray herself, nor her son. Help me. The cry echoed once more, but deeper this time, a plea tinged with something darker. Her vision dimmed, and the ground shifted. She was slipping again. It felt like the roots were pulling her under, an instinctive urge to join the shadowy depths around her. With a shaky breath, she refocused. I want to abandon you, Danny. Suddenly, the figure warped, distorted by a cruel smile that reached unnatural lengths. It was not her boy. The colors faded away, revealing an entity cloaked in despair. Sarah's heart sank. What have they turned you into? That's not important, the figure hissed, and its voice dripped like venom. What matters is how far will you go to reclaim what is lost. Each word wound tightly around her, an unbreakable tether. Mommy, please, echoed one last time, and for a fleeting second, she felt that the connection that never truly waned. A cold wind swept through her, the icy hands of dread creeping up her spine. The shadows roared in anguish, vibrating around her, but she could feel the warmth beneath it, the voice of her son just beyond reach. Trust in the light. Without knowing why, she took a step back, letting the shadows peel away for a moment. The piercing glow ahead widened, and she felt the familiar tug again, something different this time, a genuine warmth enveloping her. I will find you, Danny. I will not be afraid. The shadows screamed, writhing violently, as if losing their grip. But just as hope danced on her lips, a thunderous crack ignited the air. The ground shook violently beneath her feet, and Sarah stumbled. No, stay away. The darkness rippled, morphing into something she could barely comprehend, shadows now taking on jagged forms filled with hatred. Don't run. The twisted visage of Danny hissed through bared teeth. You belong to us. In that moment, Sarah realized she could either let fear overpower her or fight back fiercely. Stealing her heart, she inhaled sharply, ready to charge forward into the abyss once more. What lay beyond that glow? Was hope waiting there, or a complete nightmare? The shadows pulsed with renewed fury, and Sarah braced herself, preparing for the descent. What dreadful secrets would she uncover? Would she dare plunge into the unknown once more? Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the darkness throb around her like a living thing. She swallowed her fear and stepped towards the glow, each footfall echoing ominously, as if the earth itself held its breath. The light beckoned her forward, still flickering, promising safety, but warning tremors raced through her as she sensed the suffocating shadows closing in behind. Danny, she shouted again, her voice now a desperate, wavering cry. The shadows hissed, a thousand whispers stitching confusion and dread in her mind. The laughter returned, a cacophony of twisted mirth that made her heart pound wildly. You'll never reach him, mocked the voice, smooth and taunting. You were always too late. The glow pulsed, brighter this time, cutting through the black, despair suffocating her. Sarah hesitated, flooded with memories of Danny laughing in the sunlight, the warmth of his small hand in hers a distant echo of the life she'd known. She couldn't let go of that light. She wouldn't she surged forward, the ground beneath her trembled, gripping her tightly. Roots twisted like serpents, threatening to pull her back into the dark abyss. Stay with us. A chorus of raspy voices called. Stay? A fierce anger ignited within her, burning away the dread. I want to lose him again. Gritting her teeth, Sarah yanked her feet free from the earth's hold and pushed toward the light with everything she had. Each step fueled by her fierce resolve. She felt the shadows shrieking in fury behind her, writhing like a wild storm. The light shimmered brighter, aching with promise. Would she truly find Danny? But as she reached the threshold of the glow, something flickered, something dark and horrifying. The light transformed, revealing a silhouette that sent her heart plunging. Danny? It was a grotesque blend of her son and something entirely alien. Eyes black and deep, a void that threatened to consume her. A grin spread across its face, sharp and predatory. You finally came, Mommy, it hissed, echoing with all the innocence of a child but dripping with malice. No, Sarah's voice trembled. You're not him. Then why do you still seek me? The figure mocked. You think you're saving him? You're saving yourself, aren't you? The shadows curled tighter around her, whispering truths and pulling her deeper into self-doubt. Sarah clamped her eyes shut, the sound of Danny's laughter now twisted into a cruel echo that made her stomach churn. Somewhere in this darkness, a hint of light flashed again, flickering like a candle on the verge of extinguishing. No, she screamed, opening her eyes to find herself in a swirling vortex of shadowy tendrils. Panic bubbled up within her. The laughter intensified, drowning out everything she held dear. I'm not afraid of you. Suddenly, a tremor shook the ground, and the shadows recoiled for a moment as if held by an unseen force. In that brief pause, Sarah charged forward. This was not just about Danny. It was about all the lost things, her own strength, hope, and the love that would not wane. With a defiant roar, she dove toward the grotesque figure. Just as she thought she would touch the shadows surrounding it, a blinding flash erupted, enveloping her entirely. Heat washed over her, like sunlight after days of bitter cold. Then a voice broke through the chaos, low and steady. Trust the light, let it guide you. It felt familiar, safe. The shadows screamed in agony. The horrid figure began to dissolve. Danny's name bled from her lips in a soundless plea, an invocation of faith. Would the light protect her? Or was she walking headfirst into a nightmare? The world fell away, spinning violently around her, and Sarah braced herself, ready to confront whatever lay in the depths of the light. Would she find Danny, or was this merely another cruel trick? What awaited her on the other side? A truth that would awaken nightmares she never knew existed? Sarah emerged from the swirling light, gasping as she landed on solid ground, the air heavy with an oppressive stillness. The brightness faded, replaced by an ambiguous twilight that hummed with an unsettling energy. She blinked hard, disoriented yet desperate to find Danny. Danny, she called weakly, voice echoing into the oppressive quiet. The response was only a chilling silence that wrapped around her, deepening her uncertainty. The landscape that unfolded before her was unlike anything she had seen. Shadows twisted into monstrous shapes, trees gnarled like skeletal hands reaching for a sun they could never touch. An unseen mist crawled across the ground, coiling around her ankles like tendrils of despair. A deep sense of wrongness sent icy fingers down her spine. Mommy, a voice called, fragile yet eerily familiar. The sound floated on the lingering air, sharp and clear, piercing the silence. Help me, Danny. Panic laced her tone as she sprinted toward the source of the voice, her heart pounding. With each step, the trees closed in, forming a maze filled with unspeakable fear. Shadows flickered, and in the corners of her vision, she caught glimpses of movement unnatural, shifting forms lurking just beyond her sight. She reached a clearing, breathless, the chill of terror wrapping around her like a cloak. In the center stood a figure, a small silhouette with a familiar outline. Sarah's heart raced. Danny. But the joy was short-lived. The shadows danced closer, their whispers rising like a storm. It's not him, they hissed, twisting the very air she breathed. You've come too late. The figure turned, revealing monstrous eyes that burned with an insatiable hunger. It wore Danny's face, but a darkness lurked behind that visage, something primal and twisted, mocking her hopes. Why did you abandon me, Mommy? I waited for so long. No, no, no. Sarah clutched her head, tears blurring her vision. You're not Danny. You're a monster. Am I? It crooned, voice dripping with innocence but shadowed by malevolence. Didn't you let me go? Didn't you let me drown in the dark? The shadows swirled closer, teasing her with memories, with visions of what could have been. They drew her into their depths, the air thick with the weight of regret. The image of Danny, his laughter and sunlight, wrestled with the grotesque mockery before her. I searched for you, she cried. I never stopped looking. I love you. Love? Love is weak. The reflection sneered, taking a step toward her, darkness spilling out. The trees crackled, and the wind howled, twisting with the whispers of lost souls. You've already lost. Fear twisted in her stomach, but in a sudden surge, she anchored herself to the memory of her son's real laughter, the light that guided her through the dark. I want to lose you, Danny. You're still in there. She lunged forward, feeling a rush of warmth radiate from her heart. A vivid white light pushed through her fear, illuminating the grotesque figure. With sheer desperation, Sarah screamed, You can't take him from me. The light surged, casting away encroaching shadows, and she glimpsed the flicker of truth behind those dark eyes, a cry for help buried deep. Just as quickly, it vanished, replaced by rage. The whispers rose to a deafening roar, enveloping her as she fought against the darkness. Danny. The name fell from her lips like a prayer, cutting through the chaos. Would it reach him, guiding him back in time? With each heartbeat echoing the rhythm of a sinking dream, Sarah lunged toward the figure. The shadows faltered, and in that heartbeat, she felt the answer hanging in the dark air. Suddenly, the echoes fell silent. The clearing wasn't empty anymore. More figures emerged from the shadows, each one twisted and warped, wearing faces she couldn't recognize. All their voices rose together, forming a chant that sent chills racing up her spine. "You're one of us, now join us," and in that moment, doubt flickered like a dying ember. The truth was clearer than ever. Maybe she wasn't strong enough to save Danny. But then she looked deep into the merging shadows and saw a light flickering beyond the veil, pulsing with hope. "Your turn is next, Mommy," they hissed. With a shattering determination, she squeezed her eyes shut and reached for the light. But as it enveloped her, doubts gnawed at her heart. Would she find Danny, or would she lose her own light forever? What awaited her beyond that threshold of dawn? Would it reveal salvation, or lead her deeper into nightmarish abyss? Luminous swirls surrounded Sarah as she plunged into the enveloping light, a cacophony of whispers piercing through the unyielding silence. The moment felt like both an eternity and an instant, her heart racing as fears clashed with the flickering hope. She braced herself, emotions spiraling into chaos. But when the brightness receded, she was no longer in the clearing. The oppressive twilight deepened, bruised shadows stretching ominously, encompassing her in their oppressive grip. A malevolent chill sliced through the air as she stood in the heart of darkness, her vision blurred by lingering afterimages of warmth she'd just felt. "Danny," she breathed, dread creeping back in. Her voice echoed, absorbed by the hungry dark. The instinct to call was overshadowed by a dawning horror, a twisted thought that Danny might be trapped beyond this realm, lost forever. The shadows around her shuddered, forming into anguished faces, mouths moving but stifled by the thick silence. They didn't simply want to take her. They needed her despair to thrive. "Mommy!" A wail tore through the malignant quiet, vibrating with agony and urgency. Sarah stumbled through the treacherous landscape, desperation clawing at her throat as she fought against the fear pinning her down. "Where are you?" she shouted, trapping her hope like a firefly in a jar. The road ahead was obscured by twisting roots and fog that swirled with an oily texture. Every step felt treacherous, as if the very ground was conspiring to pull her in. The voice echoed again from the murky depths. "Mommy, I'm scared." It had to be Danny. The pain in that voice ignited a flicker of determination within her. She surged forward, the darkness tightening around her like a vice, each branch scratching at her arms, yearning to claim her as well. The shadows began pulling back, and before her, a long-forgotten playground emerged, its rusted swings creaking eerily. On the far side, something shifted in the mist, a swirling mass of shadowy figures, eyes glinting with an otherworldly hunger. They moved in sync, as if anticipating the moment when she would falter. "Join us," they beckoned, their voices dripping with mockery. "Why prolong your suffering?" "No," Sarah screamed, defiance hardening her resolve as she pressed on toward the distorted familiarity of the swings. The silhouette of a small figure flickered in and out like a signal struggling to reach her. A flash of Danny's laughter broke through the haze, filling her heart with warmth, grounding her. Straining against the sound of despair, she shouted, "I'm coming." As she lunged toward the playground, shadows snaked around her, claws of despair seeking an anchor in her heart. She felt them tug at her resolve, whispering promises of peace and yielding. "Mommy," the voice broke, once sweet and innocent, now tinged with terror. "They're lying. It's not safe." Cold sweat trickled down her back. The playground warped with Danny's form still partially illuminated. But there was a sinister shimmer, a darkness danced in the corners of his eyes, beckoning her closer, while weaving tangled memories and twisted promises. "Why did you come?" he asked, voice soft yet edged with something darker. It was Danny, but also the shadow of something famished and predatory. "You shouldn't have come." Sarah hesitated, her heart caught between treacherous love and paralyzing fear. "I'm here to save you." She strained against the encroaching shadows that claimed the air around her, igniting a desperate anger. "Join us." The chorus rose again, relentless, echoing all around. Suddenly, the shadows lunged forward, as if ready to drag her into their void. The playground shifted and writhed. Danny's figure flickered, and a voice pierced through the noise. "Mom, Don't let them pull you in. In that moment, clarity cut through the chaos. She had to make a choice, to fight back against the darkness coiling around her, or to embrace the madness and risk losing everything herself. Danny, hope. She reached for the brightness now rekindled within, envisioning her son's true face, clinging to that love. I want let you go. But even as she reached for the light, a feeling of deep dread unfurled in her stomach. What if all of this, the whispers, the shadows, Danny's face, was simply a mirrored illusion, crafted to draw her further into despair? As the darkness surged around her, Sarah knew the true battle had just begun. Would she find the strength to break free, or would she be consumed by those haunting calls, lost forever in the sinister waltz of shadows? The air crackled as shadows surged, enveloping her in a tightening embrace, echoing a question that haunted her. What are you willing to sacrifice for love? And before she could answer, a door appeared in the fog, an escape from this twisted playground. Yet she hesitated, heart pounding, as the whispers grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. What waited beyond that door? Was it an escape or merely another trap? The door loomed like a specter, its edges flickering with glimmers of light that fought against the oppressive darkness. It breathed hope, but held danger wrapped in deceit. Sarah's heart raced, her mind spinning with possibilities. Was this the path to Danny, or a snare set by the shadows? Mom. The voice was weaker now, the urgency replaced by a sorrowful echo that made her stomach churn. Danny, I'm coming. She lunged towards the door, driven by fear and love. Her fingers brushed the cold brass handle when a bone-chilling sound caught her attention. A chorus of laughter, twisted and mocking, rose from the shadows. It coiled around her like thick smoke, stifling her breath. Join us, they hissed, the words slithering into her ears, promising a sanctuary free from pain. You're only delaying the inevitable. Panic surged through her veins. The laughter morphed into sobs, the ghostly faces emerging anew, their mouths gaping wide in silent screams. They reached for her, fingers stretching across the breadth of the void. If she stepped through that door, would it lead to freedom or further entrapment? The playground faded behind her, the swings, the laughter, even Danny's face lost its clarity. The light ahead flickered, seeming to pulse like a heartbeat. It was alluring but foreign, an artificial warmth in a world steeped in despair. Mom. The voice cracked again, now barely a whisper. Help me, please. The please sent shards of ice through her chest. Trust the voice, the familiar warmth of Danny's plea fought against the intimate call of shadows. She didn't know how long she could keep up this struggle, but the thought of losing him consumed her. With stealing resolve, she grasped the handle and twisted. The door flung open, revealing a blinding light that surged toward her. A wave of warmth enveloped her like a lover's embrace. Yet lurking beneath that warmth was a hint of sulfur, an acrid sting that warned her not to trust it. Come back, Sarah, Danny's voice echoed, now layered with something thicker, darker. They'll take you if you stay. Join me. For a fleeting second, she felt a pulse of belonging and urge to surrender. But just as quickly, it vanished, replaced by fear. There was an intoxicating allure to the light beyond the door, a promise of relief from terror. Yet she sensed the shadows' hunger, waiting for her to step into their grip. I'm not yours to take, she screamed, her voice igniting the darkness around her. An eruption of chaos rippled through the shadows. Anguished versions of Danny surged forward, faces melding with her memories. Release him, they cried, each voice twisting the name into something vile. You can be free, if you give him up. The air thickened. Dread wrapped its fingers around her throat. She stepped back, stumbling against the doorframe, her heart pounding like a drum. Danny, hold on. I'm coming. As she closed her eyes, memories collided. The last time Danny laughed, the warmth of his small hand in hers, the simplicity of their life before the shadows came. She fought against the clutches of despair, envisioning him playing in the sun-drenched yard, unburdened, unaware of the horrors waiting just beyond their home. You have to choose, the voices whispered like a chilling wind, growing relentless, feeding off her every doubt. In that moment, clarity struck. She realized the shadows couldn't take from her what she refused to give. Taking a deep breath, she stepped away from the door, letting the light fade behind her. The shadows shattered, revealing the depths of her fears, dissolving the familiar playground, the twisted images of her son. Mom. The anguished calls turned desperate, now a cacophony of wails. Why won't you save me? Because I want to lose myself. She shouted back, defiance lighting her core. You're not there. You're not him. But the darkness wasn't finished. It lashed out, angry at her rejection, a frenzied storm of shadows swirling around her. They drew closer, fingers clawing at her sanity, dragging her emotions to the brink. There, at the edge of her resolve, another figure emerged, a flicker of Danny's true self, battling the dark entropy surrounding him. Help me, he cried out one last time, eyes filled with both trust and despair. He reached toward her, a glimmer of hope shimmering within the dark. The ground beneath her trembled, a fracture running through the heart of despair. But just as clarity sparked inside her, a deeper shadow reached out, clawing for her very essence. What are you really willing to sacrifice? It whispered, wrapping around her like a blanket of ice. Her heart pounded in response. Was it worth risking everything for a chance to save him? Or would that desire only lead to her end? The last of her strength flickered as the darkness surged again, ready to drag her down into the void. With everything on the line, Sarah stood at the precipice of despair, the choice now blaring in her mind. There had to be another way. But to uncover it, she had to face an even darker truth lurking within the shadows. What if the terrifying answers lay in the void she feared most? The forest shook with Sarah's heartbeat as she gripped the edges of her resolve, the weight of shadows crashing against her like waves against jagged rocks. Enough, she bellowed, a primal authority coursing through her. The darkness recoiled, and for the first time, she felt a pulse of strength rising from deep within her, igniting a flicker of courage to stand against the shadows. Danny, she called again, her voice fierce, echoing off the nebulous forms swirling around her. Each syllable clawed at the fabric of despair, pushing against the hollowness that loomed close. In her heart, the memory of his laughter warmed her, reminding her of light. She hugged that thought tight as a life raft in the storm, but a shape broke through the mass of shadows, that too familiar silhouette glimmering faintly. Her boy. Mommy, the figure whispered, a plea that bound her heart as tight as chains had. Help me. But those words twisted as they left his lips, tinged with something dark, something desperate. Stop lying to me, she cried, voice sharpened with raw emotion. You aren't him. The specters around her shrieked, their chorus of anguish echoing, threatening to drown her resolve. But she would not let fear rule her anymore. From deep within, an empowering warmth surged, radiating from a place where love intertwined with sheer will. The shadows recoiled, disoriented by the force she exuded. This has gone on long enough. Join us. The voices raged, underscored by a gut-wrenching pleading that resonated with every anguished spirit tied to the forest. You know you want to be free. But no matter how enticing they made it sound, she understood the reality twisted inside that allure. I want to be manipulated. A surge of air billowed around her, and Sarah envisioned Danny, his brown eyes shining, full of trust, full of life. I will save you, she proclaimed, heart thundering with purpose. She bowed her head against the shadows, feeling their caustic whispers snake around her. Mommy, the figure of Danny moved closer, flickering like a candle on the brink of extinguishing, but behind that shadow lurked a glimmer of hope. It's dark here, then let us turn on the lights, she exclaimed, light spilling forth from her chest ignited by the pure intent of maternal love. The shadows thrashed violently, tearing against her fierce glow, but she pressed forward. Danny, listen to me. Fight. I'm here, Mom. His voice wavered, oscillating between reality and shadow. Was he still locked within that grotesque distortion? Focus on my voice, she instructed, steps gaining momentum, plunging deeper into the heart of the storm. I love you, Danny. You're stronger than this darkness. We can break through together. In that moment, crackling light burst through the thick of the darkness and twisted forms began to dissolve around her. It was warmth, pure and soothing, flooding her senses, wrapping her in a cocoon of safety. She felt his hand reaching for hers, ethereal yet undeniably real. Danny, Mommy. It was a whisper, tinged with longing, but the sincerity within it sent a thrill through her. She lunged forward, and the shadows recoiled, shrieking in anguish as she grasped the essence of her son within the brightness now surrounding them. "Now!" she cried, clutching him tightly. The darkness shrieked, howling against their bond, a union of love buoyed by their indefatigable spirit. "Fight! Push it back!" The light erupted, expanding in fervor and passion, crashing against the shadows with a force that washed over the twisted landscape. The malevolent figures scrambled, threatening as they clawed at the remnants of connection that bound them. But their wails infested the air, desperate and lost. It was a battle of wills, and Sarah felt the tide shift as Danny's fragile form began to solidify next to her. Together, the haunted chorus dissolved before the brilliance emanating from her, and as they rekindled their connection, she felt energy, a vibrant flame of hope infuse her spirit. With a final howl of rage, the collective shadows faded into oblivion, a cacophony of tormented whispers. Dissipating into the wind, silence enveloped them, a sweet release. "Mommy?" Danny's voice soft, innocent, and real. She opened her eyes to see him standing before her, the swirling shadows melting away. The forest began to heal, the roots retracting, petals trembling like a heartbeat of life. "Danny!" She enveloped him into her arms, feeling his warmth, the sweet scent of innocence, her true boy. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she held him tight, reveling in the moment they were finally free. "I was so scared," he whispered against her shoulder, and her heart swelled. "I know, sweet one, but we're together now." As they stepped away from the remnants of the cursed woods, sunlight broke through the thick canopy, illuminating the path forward. The whispers were gone, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves. In that sunlight, she felt different, reborn in strength, unshakable in love. Fingers intertwined, they walked towards Maplewood. Behind them lay the remnants of a darkness they had conquered together, and ahead, a world blooming with possibility, the place where they could finally heal. But before they emerged, a sudden tremor rippled through the ground, a final warning. Hope and sacrifice weaved rebirth and learning. They turned back only for a moment, shadows now fading, but gratitude filled their hearts, and together, they stepped into the warmth of dawn, leaving the dark behind, embracing the light, ahead, a new journey into life unshackled. Hope rekindled. If you've made it this far, don't let this journey end here. You need to subscribe now to catch our next exclusive adventure. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your feelings about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support keeps the magic alive.